With some similarities in their game and how they got to the NBA, can Trayce Jackson-Davis be the next Draymond Green?
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Hope everybody is having a terrific Wednesday. You are Locked On Hoosiers, the one and only daily IU podcast, part of the Locked On Network. Appreciate you guys tuning in, however you may be doing it, whether on YouTube or whatever podcast platform you choose. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. I'm your host, Jacob Rude. There's been a lot of discussion about Trayce Jackson-Davis and the landing spot for him in the draft. We spent Friday's show, we spent Monday's show talking about it, but I wanted to dive deeper into the kind of a central topic that we discussed on Monday's show when we were mentioning Trayce Jackson-Davis, and that could Trayce Jackson-Davis be the next Draymond Green? Spoiler alert, no, but I think there are a lot of similarities there, and I wanted to talk about this kind of comparison more specifically, dive in a little bit deeper to it. I immediately say no, because Draymond Green is one of the most unique players in NBA history, if we're being honest. A Hall of Famer, a guy who kind of revolutionized, I don't want to say the game, but certainly his position. He's part of a revolutionary team and franchise. While Steph Curry deserves and gets a lot of plaudits for his skill and what he's done to the NBA, he has revolutionized the game. A lot of the success the Warriors had, Draymond Green was central to. Having said that, him kind of existing has led to other players trying to become someone like him. And I don't know that specifically Trayce Jackson-Davis has done that, but there are a lot of similarities between the two. And Trayce can kind of approximate some of Draymond's skills. This is assuming Draymond Green returns to the Warriors, which I'm not diving down that rabbit hole. He's technically a free agent, but let's just assume he returns. There are a lot of similarities between the two of them. Draymond was 22 when he entered the NBA. Trayce is 23. Both of them were overlooked in the draft. Draymond was the number 35 pick, but he kind of infamously or famously, depending on if you're a Warriors fan or not, maybe, knows every player taken above him and can recite them. I don't know that Trayce is going to remember 56 names taken before him, but he was also overlooked in the draft. Looking more specifically at their games, a broad generalization is they're big men who can't reliably space the floor. Draymond certainly has much more of a jumper, and even did coming into the NBA, than Trayce Jackson-Davis does. Even if you assume that something is there and the shooting he's been doing will show and make an appearance in NBA games, there's a big gap there. But the other aspects of their game are similar. They're both very good defensively in different ways. Trayce is more of a rim protector. Draymond is more of a high IQ physical defender. Trayce is a good passer. I mean, he had a triple-double in college, one of only a small handful of Hoosiers to do that ever. And that's a storied program, obviously. Draymond's playmaking is on another level. Like, he's one of the best in the NBA. But Trayce, again, can kind of approximate that and be a Draymond light in some ways when it comes to playmaking. But both are guys who kind of excel in a number of intangibles. Trayce is a great screen setter. He can read the floor well. High IQ, intelligent player. A lot of those things also describe Draymond. There's differences. I would say Draymond is leaps and bounds better as a playmaker, but Trayce is leaps and bounds more athletic than Draymond is. what does that ultimately end up with? Well, I think there's no better mentor for Trayce Jackson-Davis than Draymond Green, and that's been a point we've made a number of times. Draymond can teach him how to be a better playmaker. That's something you can learn, how to play in the Warrior system, how to read defenses, where to set, where to go for dribble handoffs, when to slip the screen, when to fake a dribble handoff, things like that. That can be taught, and Draymond can teach him that. He can teach Trayce how to stay on the floor without being able to hit a jumper. Again, Trayce might be able to knock down a jumper. Warriors fans that might be listening for the first time, Trayce spent a lot of time last summer kind of talking about his jumper, and there was a lot of discussion on it, and then he did not shoot the entire season. So I think IU fans are firmly in a we'll believe it when we see it kind of mindset, but if it happens, that'll be great. He's still going to have to learn how to stay on the floor regardless of what his jumper is, because defenses aren't going to respect it. So it's great to have Draymond, a guy who absolutely stays on the floor despite being largely for most of his career a bad jump shooter, with maybe some moments throughout seasons throughout, but ultimately he is a bad jump shooter, and he's a Hall of Famer. So especially late in his career, he's a career 31% three-point shooter, and that's even with shooting 38% one season from the three-point line. That's a good person to teach Trayce how to stay on the floor, what he needs to do in other areas to make defenses respect him. They can even play alongside one another. This isn't going to be an either or back and forth. It might get a little tight with some of the spacing when you have Steph and Clay out there. That alone accounts for a lot of spacing. But Trayce and Draymond absolutely could play alongside one another. It'd be a smaller defense, but both those guys are good defenders for their position and in different ways that I think you could make it work. Trayce can play kind of that Kevon Looney role, playing a little bit more in the dunker spot, being around the rim a little bit more. And whereas Kevon Looney might not be a lob threat, there's a lot of times Draymond gets that kind of, he slips a screen and gets that short roll middle of the floor, and he's playing 3-on-2. And if defenses are going to fly out or be worried about the three-point shooter, with Kevon Looney, you still get a layup, but with Trayce Jackson-Davis, he can be a vertical threat, and that offers something a little bit different to the Warriors' offense as well. I think in an ideal situation, and rarely do things turn out ideally when it comes to prospects, but in an ideal situation, this Trayce kind of helps the Warriors play a similar style even when Draymond isn't on the floor. And again, I want to be clear. I'm not saying Trayce is going to come out there and immediately look like a Draymond Green regen and play exactly like him, but I'm saying there are a lot of similarities in how they play, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of Trayce in the high post, setting screen and rolls, catching short rolls, doing dribble handoffs, being kind of a facilitator of such. We saw how good he was at IU last season, playing out of the post, reading a defense, and firing one-handed cross-court passes. That's the types of plays that show what type of IQ he has. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see some of that this season for the Warriors. That's how they play. And I could see Trayce having the ball in the middle of the court and guys cutting and coming off screens around him and things like that. That's why I think IU fans are excited that he's going to be a Warrior, is that it really it will bring out the best qualities in him, is probably the best way of saying it. So I'm really excited to see him on the floor, and that's going to start in Summer League in about a week. We had some other Summer League news right after we finished recording our podcast on Sunday. We'll tell you about another Hoosier who will be playing in the Summer League and where that will be here in a moment. First, let's talk about today's sponsor, FanDuel. It's baseball season. That's the only thing it is right now. And you can take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel. Get 10 times your first bet amount and bonus bets up to $200. That's right. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend betting everything from the money line to the over-under to who you think is going to be the first home run, all on an app that's safe and secure, super easy to use. Plus, when you do win, you get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. Big thanks to you guys, as always, for making us your first listen every day. Everydayers, Friday on the show, we'll do a little bit more on the season recap. Next week on the show, we're going to dive deeper into Summer League previews, when guys are going to play, what it's going to look like from Trayce, from Jalen, and from Race Thompson, who will be at the Las Vegas Summer League. Race will be playing for the New York Knicks Summer League team. We'll dive deeper into what it's going to look like. He's going to get playing time. The Knicks don't have a very big Summer League team. There are some teams who have a bunch of rookies, a bunch of second-year guys who take up a good chunk of the playing time. So undrafted free agents don't typically go there. That's not the case with the Knicks. There's only a couple guys that are known to even be on the team right now. So there will be playing time to be had for Race Thompson. It's going to be interesting to see how he performs. He's going to be an undersized power forward who's going to need to prove himself on the perimeter. It didn't happen a lot during the regular season. We'll see if that changes, but he's going to have some challenges. Not to say he can't succeed. He's going to have some challenges playing in the NBA. Summer League will be a good test of whether he can conquer those challenges or if he might need to go elsewhere internationally and try to improve there before coming back to Summer League. So I'm fascinated to see what it looks like for him. There doesn't look like there's going to be Miller Kopp in the Summer League. His name hasn't been announced anywhere, but full rosters haven't been announced. It's still possible. He was posting videos on TikTok, on social media, though, making it sound like Summer League probably wasn't going to happen for him. So I'd be surprised if he does. A lot of Summer League teams have training camps before, like a day or two training camp before they start playing. So it's one of those things you got to know pretty early on whether you're going to be in a Summer League team or not. He probably knows by now. But next week, Monday or Wednesday's episode, we will preview Summer League, when Trayce, when Race, when Jalen will be playing, how much time they'll get, things like that. We'll do that next week for you everydayers. Let's talk current IU basketball because we know their non-conference schedule. IU added North Alabama to the schedule as its final non-conference game. That game will be played on December 21st against North Alabama. That was the last game we knew about, which means we have a full look at the schedule. They'll play the UND and Marion in exhibition games. Then they will have Florida Gulf Coast, Army, and Wright State as their warm-ups before going to the Empire Classic with Texas, with UConn. Louisville might be the third team. I'm blanking on it right now, but they'll go there for 2 days. Come back against Harvard at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Then play Auburn in Atlanta, Georgia on December 9th. Kansas the following week. And then they'll wrap up 2023 with Morehead State, North Alabama, and Kennesaw State. One thing of note, the Kansas game is not on student ticket season ticket plans. I saw some surprise, anger, whatever reactionary takes to it. It's just kind of the nature of how things played out. It's the day after So it's on a Saturday. On Friday is when winter break starts. As you guys know, Friday, typically everyone is just zooming out of Bloomington and going home to their family. So I think the assumption is most IU students would have sold those tickets. So they open it up to the public. They reserved a number of student tickets, a couple hundred. There were concerns about the atmosphere. It's a little disingenuous to all of the the non-students that go to games. There's been plenty of games that have happened during or when students are not in session that have had good atmospheres. The one that comes to mind I was at was the 2011-12 Ohio State game. Ohio State was, I believe, number 2 ranked. The Aaron Kraft years at Ohio State, that was like a decade, not just a year. And that was much later. I think it was almost in the new year when that game took place. And that play in Assembly Hall was absolutely rocking. I'm not really concerned about the atmosphere. How IU is playing is going to determine what the atmosphere is like. That's going to be a tough test for them. There's going to be a number. It's the last of a number of tough tests. They're probably guaranteed at least one tough game in the Empire Classic. Then you have Auburn, who is going to be a tough game in Atlanta, Georgia. And then you have Kansas. So how IU is playing is going to determine the atmosphere as much as anything, but I'm not really worried about it. I think that's kind of overblown. And I expect the other non-student IU fans to get rowdy. I mean, it's still a chance for them to watch IU versus what I assume would be a top 5, top 10 team in Kansas. People are going to get excited about that, whether they're a student or not. I think that's a kind of a silly argument, a little bit unfair on the non-IU fans. Hey, or the non-student IU fans, if you're not a student and you plan on going to that game, take it as a challenge. Be loud. Make everybody look foolish for that take. So that'll be an exciting game regardless. But we know the full non-conference schedule now. Not entirely certain when the Big Ten will release its schedule. We know who they're going to play in terms of home and away, I believe, and whatnot. But that'll come at a later date. You have a general sense of who they'll be playing, though. Women's basketball landed a 2025 recruit, in-state recruit. We'll tell you who it is. Let you know all about her here in just a few moments. Terry Morin is recruiting the state of Indiana, landed one of the top 2025 recruits in the state earlier this week. 2025 recruit Maya Makalusky. I'm not sure the exact pronunciation on that. She comes from Hamilton Southeastern, a 6'3" wing, class of 2025. She picked the Hoosiers over offers from Butler, Alabama, Kentucky, Ohio State, Florida. A number of top programs were offering her, but she picked the Hoosiers, and the reasoning was both interesting and like good. I don't know a better way of saying it than good things for the Hoosiers. Quote, I've seen all they've achieved. They're changing girls basketball, not only locally, but all around Indiana. That is exactly what you want to hear when you get somebody to commit to Indiana. We haven't talked a lot about what this run for IU basketball on the women's side is going to do for recruiting. They're the power in Indiana now. For years and years and years, it was either Purdue or Notre Dame. I don't know that Notre Dame's ever really recruited the state all that much in men's or women's basketball, but those were the powers. It's clearly IU right now, and IU will recruit the state and kind of has that pull to land a lot of these top players. So we'll see if that continues. There are rankings for 2025 recruits. ESPN has like a list, not even like a ranked list, just kind of a general list of players for 2025. Terrific 25 for 2025. I will say that Maya is not on it, but I don't really put anything into that because who knows when it's been updated. It's only a list of 2025, and it's not even true. It says it's 60 girls. Maya's not on it. It's not a big deal. We'll see once those rankings are updated later on, but absolutely you trust Terry Morin, and she has done wonders recruiting, so I'm not worried in the least bit about that. And on the note of recruiting, Sydney Parrish also helped recruit. She is a Hamilton Southeastern alum as well. Here's what Maya had to say about it, about Sydney. Quote, I also think watching Sydney transition from Oregon to Indiana was important for me to see. She looked happier. She looked like she was exactly where she was supposed to be and could be her own self. Watching her grow up as a little girl, then seeing her come back to IU was crazy for all of us because she was our biggest role model. It was awesome. So Maya said, and there was a really good article in the Indy Star about the decision from, there's no byline on it. So somebody at the Indy Star wrote a pretty good article about her decision with quotes from her on it. And she said she at one point was an Oregon fan growing up, but became an IU fan, especially as they have had success in recent seasons. And that's what this success does. It catches the attention of these in-state recruits. For as much as we may not want to put anything into these women's rankings that I was mentioning, there are a number of top Indiana players who are going to be paying attention to Indiana. A player from Lawrence Central, Jalea Lampley, Avery Gordon from Brownsburg, Kira Reynolds from Washington, all are on this list of the top 60 players in Indiana. I don't know how much interest IU is showing any of them or anything like that, but Indiana women's basketball has as much talent as Indiana men's basketball. It's kind of the overarching point I want to make here. And the Hoosiers will need to continue building their momentum off the court in that way as well. You can look at the 2024 class. Faith Wiseman is someone that's been committed to Indiana for a while. She's listed as the number 59 recruit in the country. So you get situations like that where you land these recruits, you build on that momentum, and you keep it going on the recruiting trail. This does, for the Hoosiers, give them one scholarship for the 2025-26 season. Apology on the video for you guys. I can't show the scholarships anyway right now with our new layout, which let me know what you guys think. But this does give the Hoosiers their first commitment for that 2025 class. They have a lot of wiggle room when it comes to that 2025 class. So they're certainly not going to be in any sort of need. And you have to factor transfers into this as well. So just a note is that this is the first commit of 2025. There are two commits for 2024. Faith Wiseman, we mentioned, Sydney Finn as well. So exciting times for the Hoosiers women's basketball team, landing one of the top players in the class. Or in the state in the class, I should say. Let me know what you guys think about anything we talked about today. Trayce and Draymond, Race playing with the Knicks, the IU non-conference schedule. Are you going to the Kansas game? Are you going to be loud? Let me know. And then the women's basketball recruiting. Thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On Hoosiers your first listen every day. Every day is tomorrow on the show, Friday on the show. We'll wrap up any other news we might have missed this week. It's a dead period. There probably isn't going to be any news. And then look back at some seasons, probably for Malik Renew, someone we haven't talked a lot about since the season ended. Look back at his freshman campaign. Look forward to what might be in store for him next season. So come with your thoughts on Malik's season. You can share them on Friday's episode. Follow us on Twitter if you have not already. Subscribe, rating and review, all that great stuff. Appreciate all the support you guys give us. Most importantly, though, guys, hope everybody has a terrific Wednesday. And as always, LEO.